Hi, and welcome to Comics from the Arc for the week of September 4th. We're already into September. Good Lord. September, and Devin and I are here discussing our picks of the week, and
Wow,
I'm sure we're going to completely derail at some point and get way off topic, but it'll all be in the love and spirit of comic books, so
I
bear
get
with
older
us.
this month. Yay! Not yay.
Yay.
I'm
All
a
right.
coffee away from a heart attack, man.
And
Anyway,
now we're relaxing.
yeah.
All right. So, what did you pick for this week? As if I didn't already know.
Cult of the Lamb. Yeah. Ooh, it's like Dramas last week. Guess what comes this week? Yeah.
It wasn't Sesame Street.
Yeah. Well, Sesame Street was still definitely on that reading list last week because let's face it, with and I don't care who you are, this applies to you. With the chaos of this nation, it feels good to read something like Sesame Street.
Sometimes you just gotta simplify.
No, sometimes you just need to escape,
There's that too.
you know. And Grover after a little Jaeger goes pretty well. But anyway, yeah, Cult of the Lamb, outstanding book yet again. Um, they started showing in this one, the decline of the cult because they basically grew too big for the ability that was there to provide for them. So there was starting to be some starvation and heavy rationing, and it was all in the name of the lamb, of course. Um, and so the lamb ends up going back out and fighting back this incredible mortal enemy, to basically bring it to the lamb side and make it worship the lamb so that food could be provided. It's kind of like the book reads like you're doing quests is basically what it is, or doing maybe sections of a video game or something.
When you
So
had mentioned
which
that, I was actually uh, thinking Mega Man. Where you
yeah,
have to conquer this villain to be able to gain this ability.
yeah, it's kind of that feel. And so we get after the fight to make the one that was an actual, they made a comment that this is the first time since the lamb has been resurrected that it's felt fear, was when it was facing this monster. And so I mean it is grossly injured as far as like not
The
disgusting to
lamb
look
is?
at, yeah,
Okay.
but like massively injured and everything, and gets sucked back down and gets told the way for you to heal is for you to allow a sacrifice amongst your followers. Somebody that's willing to lay down their life and be sacrificed by another member, and or just have their life taken by another member. Whether it be willing or not, basically. Um, and So the lamb basically says, "This is not going to happen. I am not. I am not that horrible a being." It's like, all right, fine. Well, you're going to go back and just be injured then. You know. And come to find out, what ends up happening, since the lamb decides that, injured or not, it's time to go out. It's time to hunt down the bishops. Remember, we were talking about back in the first issues where the eventually going to have to hunt down the bishops and take them out.
Right.
Um, and now's that time, because you start taking out the bishops, and that's how you can provide more for um, your followers. Well, in doing so, you actually see a change in the crown that's on the lamb. It goes from being the red eye basically that it's been, to more of a yellow circle, and it's based on like a targeting thing, because now the lamb was willing to go out injured to fight for the followers, so the followers now, not out of fear, but out of absolute willingness were giving their devotion to the lamb, and so it was basically, it was an alternate to sacrifice. And at the very end, though, they do discuss that while this was something that they knew had to be done, and basically before the lamb even was healed, they parted, they parted themselves and let the lamb walk toward, leaving the area to go fight for them. Um, knowing that I think as they put it, there will be no miracles today. And in all actuality, once all had transpired and it was seen that this was actually, a true act and not a I'm faking it, the power was bestowed. However, there was one that was unconvinced that still they show at the end has a dagger and is considering the sacrifice as a way to go forward. So, and it's not Ratau, it's one of the other characters. Ratau is actually, has already basically sacrificed themselves.
Now, was that the first disciple, the first follower?
Yeah,
that
yeah,
did
one that
the
ends
carving?
up being, yeah, the one that it ends up kind of running all the followers and stuff like that. Yeah. And basically in doing so and trying to keep all of them, just on the brink of, staying alive, had skipped way too many meals and things like that, almost died to that. Was the first one when possibility of sacrifice was ever brought up, was the first one to say, I'm old, it is best for me to go up here to give my life for the lamb, so on and so forth. So, but at the end, he understood that, or I think that they understood that, if I remember right, they refer to everybody in the book as a they or them. So, like the lamb and Ratau and etc. So, but no, I mean, yet again, love the art, need to play the game, need to just check it out. It looks like a lot of fun. It really does. If the book is any indication of the play style, it'd be right up my alley. Up to and including, the storyline behind it. So.
Fair enough.
So. But, and I've heard this gets you way deeper into the backstory, is what the comics do for you.
Kind of like if they had a story of Oregon Trail, there's going to be
Yeah.
You're going to have to do stuff to make the book a little more interesting other than going out and hunting and trying to shoot the rabbit and the bear and whatnot.
Yeah. Like when you are mauled by the bear, there's going to be 8 or 10 pages of that mauling being described in great detail.
By spleen.
Yeah, but still one of my favorite episodes of American Dad. Roger ends up putting him into a computer because he can't bear to see him die, and so they end up going into the Oregon Trail game,
Okay.
so that they can print out a message to Klaus that they're stuck in the computer if they complete the game, and they just keep getting reset over and over and over again, and eventually Roger lets him out, and they're like, "You let us out because you just couldn't take it anymore," blah blah blah. And they're like, "No, I let you out because I became so desensitized to you dying, it didn't matter anymore." And like Francine, like she died of dysentery almost every time, stuff like that. She just
I
couldn't
think
stop
only
drinking the
one
water.
time had I ever actually witnessed someone win the game.
Really?
They made it to the Pacific.
Nice. See, we had a few people do it, but it wasn't common. I think the furthest I ever made it was somewhere close to the Sierras. So usually about there, I got taken down by snakes or something.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But Zork was another real difficult one on that.
Never played it.
Open door. Do not know command. Turn doorknob. What is a doorknob? It's like, Al, I'm gonna kill you, man. Zork was very frustrating because you had to get the command just right.
Just right.
Yeah, it was all text game too. 100%. So it would basically give you a paragraph to read, and then you'd have to extrapolate from the paragraph the perfect way to word what you want to do.
Yeah, that doesn't sound frustrating to sell. No
But
wonder our
so,
generation has a greater sense of patience than, now.
well, interestingly enough, that you bring that up. I was talking to somebody about Fallout the other day.
Okay.
And we had like 3 or 4 people standing around that all of us played Fallout 4, and we're still playing it to this day because it's a incredible game.
I'm sorry, were we still talking about Fallout?
Yeah, it is outstanding. But
There
every
goes my
one of us
patience.
had a different reason that we loved the game.
Oh?
Oh yeah, yeah. It seemed the younger um, they were, it was about the main storyline. For me, it's all about the like, oh, I get the settlements, I build them up, I get them super defended, I try to attract as many people, I'm gaining power by doing that, and so the older you are, the more you're into like you know, you still want to do the quests and stuff, but you're in the kind of Sim City slash civilization
Right.
mindset in the game, so you take advantage of that portion of the game. Then you've got your collectors, they're like the richest characters that ever existed, basically, and it's not because they cheated, it's because they literally run around. That's all they do is find like really funny stuff, you know.
Well, you could also describe that as being, as you get older, they talk about when you start off and you don't have a lot of money,
Yeah,
you spend your money on things and you cherish those things because you don't have a lot of things.
yeah.
And then as you get older and you get paid more and you acquire more, eventually you start shifting to experiences. You go on vacations and you take classes and you do other things because you don't need things at
Well,
that point.
let's expand this even further. As you get older, you stop. The amount of things you buy go down, and the amount of time you buy goes up, because not only do you buy that stuff, but you're more apt to get somebody to come mow your lawn, clean your house, so that you have more time to do exactly all those items. So everything you do starts kind of shifting to a would you like to buy in time? Would you like, or not buy in time, but would you like to buy some time?
I've yet to do that. Maybe I should look into that.
Actually, you have. Have you called a plumber in the last year, or an electrician?
Yes to plumber, no to
Okay,
electrician.
well, plumber. Why didn't you just go to the public library, check out a book on plumbing, and do it yourself?
Because I needed hot water faster than the time it would take to learn how boned my
Yeah.
water heater
So
was.
you bought time. By calling the plumber, you were buying time.
I guess I wasn't so much, but it wasn't the time I wanted for my hobby, like what
Yeah.
you gave in the previous
But
example.
you were still buying time regardless.
Suppose this is true, but I'll restate my stance that I haven't spent money so that I can invest my time into my hobby.
But have you?
No, moving on. For this week, I picked Exceptional X-Men. It is the first issue of this new title. It's centering on Kate Pryde and Emma Frost.
I was crazy surprised by the title, to be honest with you.
Because it didn't begin with an X.
Well, okay, more specifically, not only that it did begin with an X, but since it didn't begin with an X, they didn't start the X-Men part with the EX as well. One way
They're
or
not
another.
former men.
Well, yeah, but you see what I'm. Well, you never know, man. You can't judge them. Anyway, point is, and actually, their X men like as in mankind, as in the entirety of the human species. They're no longer regular human species; they're mutants now. So
They
they're
were
X-Men.
technically they were born mutants, So they were
But
beyond human to begin with.
but they did. But they all developed their powers right at birth.
Actually, that is one of the interesting parts in the X-Men book is the fact that people are getting their mutant powers later in life.
Yeah.
And so that's becoming an issue. It's like, wait a minute, it's not, when you go through puberty and you're a teenager, now 20, 30-year-olds are getting their powers for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'll have you know that Multiple Man displayed his power in the delivery room. When the doctor slapped his ass to make him cry, he duplicated right there.
Okay. But the point is, it depends on which one we're talking about, but a lot of them would have spent time being part of mankind, not knowing they were mutants necessarily,
Yes.
until they be all of a sudden were mutants. And regardless if they were before or after, there's a short in the box.
Actually, that brings up a different discussion then when you talk about, well,
Yeah,
if you spend your entire life thinking one way and then you
yeah.
realize that you're thinking another.
Yeah.
Anyway, after the fall of the island, everybody is dealing with it accordingly. And in Kate's case, she went back to Chicago. She's working at a bar, and she's intentionally trying to keep herself so busy that she doesn't have time to think about mutant issues, the X-Men, saving the world again. She is in survival mode. She is not wanting to deal with issues. You can tell that she's depressed. There is a moment where there are patrons in the bar and they're discussing a mutant that's at the end of the bar, and it's like, God, look at that guy and blah, blah, blah. And at no point does she jump in and defend the mutant or try to throw the stupidity back at the customers. She lets it all go by. Not her problem. And she's just keeping her head down, doing her thing.
Okay. Real quick.
Sure.
I'm going to sidetrack you just a second because I want to go back for just a little bit here.
Oh, Lord.
Back to the X-Men thing versus X-Men. Sorry. I'm not changing the men part. So your argument that, they're not X-Men actually goes against even being X-Men. Because no matter what, the word men is there. And we're talking about Kate Pride and...
Well, then, yeah, you could discuss mankind because they are women,
see, now
which
you're
has
making my
men in
argument
it.
for me. Anyway, go ahead.
Moving on.
Sorry, man.
Anyway, at one point, her boss makes her take a break, and she's like, I really don't want to take a break. She's like, take the break. Call your mom, do knitting, or have a cigarette, whatever. Just, you need a break. And so she leaves, and she's like, and she's even discussing, like, the whole point of keeping busy is so that I don't have time to think about stuff. And now that I'm being forced to come out here, I'm thinking about this stuff. And she actually has an anxiety attack. And she does the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 trick, where you try to see 5 things and what are 4 things that you can hear and so forth.
Oh, that's what. Okay.
So anyway,
something makes a lot more sense to me right now. I'm going to have a speak with somebody later.
Anyway, so she's having this anxiety attack, and she looks over. She's in this alley, and she sees 2 rats fighting over a hot dog. And then she's like, "Okay, so I see 1 rat, I see a hot dog, I see another rat." She's like, "I'm not really good at this." And she's like, "There's mustard," and she's like, "Is that 5 or is it 4? I wasn't counting." And she like starts spiraling out from there, and she's like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm done with my anxiety attack. I can, mission accomplished. I could go back to work." And then she goes back in and continues on with her night.
Yeah.
And at the end of her shift, she goes to her apartment, and it looks like she has a roommate that she knew from childhood. And because the roommate's dog is named Mikhail Brizhnikov, I think it was back when Kitty was still in dance in Chicago.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, they discuss things, and the friend was gonna go out and invited Kitty to come along. No, and you could tell that Kitty's depressed and doesn't want to engage the world. Again, she's in survival mode. And it turned out that she actually had a date, but didn't want to tell her roommate, so she sneaks out. And while she's waiting for the date to show up, date doesn't show up, and she's like, "Are you kidding me?" The one time that I'm getting out there and meeting people,
Yeah.
and it's not someone from my childhood, and it's not a mutant issue, then I get stood up. She's like, "This is the worst." And then, she's like, "Do I message her?" And so I know that there are a couple of things that had popped up recently, and everybody immediately is like, "Is Kitty gay? Are they making her bi?" And now it looks like she has a date with a girl, so they're doing something again. I since she has had a history of only being interested in guys, it feels forced. Anywho, then she realizes that the date was actually supposed to be tomorrow night. She's like, I scheduled the date on a day that I have to work. This is my only night off this week. And then so she's having Peter Parker type luck. It's like, God, nothing is going right. And so it's like, well, screw it. I'm here now. And there's a new band playing, and it's, it's like,
Bunnies.
but Bunny Starlight Dream. And, and there are all these preteen girls and multicolored hair. They're all screaming, and it's like a boy band. And this girl is being pushed out of line and told by the bouncer that she's not allowed to come in because she's a mutant. And Kate's like, not my problem. I've seen it too many times, and everything's gonna be all right. And she walks away.
Mm-hmm.
And then she hears a gun click. And it turns out that the bouncer had a gun. And then she's like, okay, now I actually have to draw a line. If someone's going to get hurt, I can't allow that. And so we saw Kitty going through the stages of survival and just trying to hang on. And she finally hit the point where she had to be forced into action.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, it becomes Kitty to the rescue. And I revert to Kitty because at the end, when the girl's like, you saved my life, what's your name? And she's like, it's Kitty. So they're going back to Kitty Pryde instead of the Kate Pryde. And I'm not sure if it's just for this girl or what, but, you could just see, like, she's trying to ground herself again and start over again. So maybe she's just reverting to the previous name. But this was probably the most realistic feeling book that I have read for Marvel in quite a while. It was someone who had to go through issues and was struggling on their own.
Yeah.
There were action beats and what have you, but honestly, when it boiled down to it, it was actually a very human story. And I love the art was really good on this.
You're not there.
Well, something's not working.
Something not working. We'll take care of that later.
All right. So anyway, it shows Kitty, Pride, that chick, waking up, and her hair is all over the place, and it was a very realistic look. As far as mutant books, it's never been a very normal life, and this is as close as it's ever gotten, and this made it the most relatable. Shit went wrong. She's trying to get by and try to deal with stuff, and she's going through stages of loss and everything. This is where we get on board. Kitty Pryde was originally brought in to be the comic reader in our intro into this world. She was supposed to be our focus, and once again, she's our focus. And
Go ahead.
Anyway, after everything that has gone on in their lives, after everything that she has witnessed, she is realizing that something went wrong a while back, and in putting her finger on where it went wrong, first of all, she's not able to do it, and second of all,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, you have to just dig in and start over, and she's in the stages of doing that.
Yeah.
And I felt that that was such a tremendous story in and of itself. You know, we're introduced to a new mutant uh, who, upon having been saved by a kitty and dropped off at her house, runs in, and the girl and her grandmother are black, and you know the grandmother's like, I could tell that you had a rough night, and I feared that it was because of the place that you hold in this world, but just know that you come from a strong line of people, and we get back to that message of these are real people that have fought real racism,
Yeah.
and have had to overcome it, and we're drawing that parallel again. We're moving forward, we're getting back to basics, and it felt like a very necessary story to tell.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully they can get, people to actually, accept that, because it's going to be hard coming back from that one.
Well, and that was actually something that was brought up in the book, is how, when Xavier broadcast to the world, and Magneto was trying to drive home the fact that, this is how it is. They said, your gods have arrived, and it is us. And Kate was just like, I knew we were going to have to live that down, and now that they're not here having to deal with it, I'm having to deal with the crap that they dished out. And when the people who are your leaders are getting you into trouble, then they often disappear. You're the one left holding the bag, and I think we can all relate to that.
Yep.
All in all, this was by far one of the better mutant books that they have released since the relaunch, and I really enjoyed it. It helps that it was one of my favorite characters. I like at the very end, it actually says the end, and then when you turn the page, it says JK LOL.
Yeah.
And then we see Emma, and Emma is going through different mutants that she's worked with in her mind, and she's up to something, and she's like, I can't do this person, I can't do that person. And then she settles on Pride, and then she's like, I'm going to have to look into this. So you can tell that Emma's up to something. Not quite sure what it's going to be, but they've had a long history against each other, and I feel like we're going to get back to the basics there as well, because again, it all started in Chicago.
Very cool. All right. Well, anything else today, or?
No, that's the bulk of it right there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else, so.
All right. Well, from the ARC, it's Devin and Jeff. We've been discussing our comics. If at any point in time you would like to throw your 2 cents in, you know how to get a hold of us. And we'll talk to you later. Enjoy.